Hi, this is Captain Everyman, and I'm going to talk to you today about Black Panther and why it succeeded overseas where these other superhero movies and Marvel movies have failed. And one of the things that's always been curious to me is how Western cultures tend to be individualist, whereas in the East, they tend to be collectivist. And I think that's one of the big keys, among another thing I'm going to bring up, as to why Black Panther succeeded in Asia, where some of these others have not. Collectivism is a cultural bent where individual rights and freedoms are de-emphasized, and the emphasis is on things like the community, society, family, and kinship. And what made this movie kind of unique was that Black Panther, T'Challa, is a unique kind of character in that most of these superheroes that you read about, they're individualists. They've become sort of a society unto themselves. They've become these individuals that strike out and make things happen. And a lot of times even the villains are the same way. So these characters don't resonate so much in a collectivist culture, but they do for people like us who live in the United States and in like the European countries where we have like the Constitution and all that, where we sort of emphasize the rights of individuals as being the important thing to sort of look at and think about, and that's sort of our focus. And heroes like Rocky Balboa mean something to us. This is an individual who works hard and becomes something sort of on his own, even through his own efforts. Well, T'Challa, the Panther, the Black Panther, is unique as far as movies that have tried to be sold over there, and that he's very much a collectivist. He's really defending his community. He has an intact family that's very important to him. You know, a lot of these superheroes are basically loners. They have very dysfunctional families or backgrounds. They're kind of a mess themselves even. But this man is very much about his community. He's about his legacy. He's about his kinship. He's about keeping the community together, protecting it. He's the overseer of it in a very different kind of way because he's part of a community that looks to him, and he shows his love and support for the community. So this is not like these other heroes. And one of the big things about this movie is not only is T'Challa a collectivist hero, he's facing a villain who's an individualist. So this is a movie that resonates in these collectivist cultures in a very different way, and has very different impact. And I don't even, listening to people in some of these countries react, I don't even know if they're as aware of it. It's almost perhaps a subliminal thing to them, but this is very unique. You don't see a collectivist hero in a movie who takes on an individualist. Sometimes it's even the opposite is what happens. You have like somebody who has some community around them that's evil, and they're coming in to take over, and we rely on the individualist hero to stop this. So you look at this movie, Killmonger came, he was all about himself. He was an individualist. He thought about the rights of individuals even in other places, and not how his actions would disrupt the community. T'Challa was always about how to keep Wakanda together, how to keep it strong, how to protect it. So the collectivism just rings out there from that point of view. You think about how he talks about Wakanda, T'Challa talks about Wakanda and what's best for Wakanda all the time. You look at Killmonger, he's basically talking about, I'm in charge, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do the other. He's very much an I kind of guy, whereas T'Challa's very much a we in the community type of guy. And these other heroes, I'm thinking, really didn't resonate in these collectivist cultures at all. And so this movie has that appeal when the other ones didn't. The second thing I think that is lost, I mean, it's considered a throwaway line in the movie, but you remember when Sherry's there in the lab and Agent Ross gets up and shocks her, and she makes the remark about, don't scare me, colonizer. Now, I think that people took offense at it, and people probably saw it as sort of a joke or a throwaway line. But it really is a mentality I think exists in the world, because there's this angst and there's this kind of anger towards colonialism that has never died. And you think about in Asian Africa, especially Africa, was torn apart by colonialism. They're still basically in a post-colonial period. They haven't come out of it. I mean, it's really just ended maybe in the last 30 years or so. You think about a place like, I don't know, Haiti's been paying money to France for generations. So, I mean, these things haven't really ended. I mean, a lot of these African countries are in debt as the result of colonialism. You think about gunboat diplomacy, where not only the United States, but a lot of these European countries came over there for military presence and basically extorted money out of these people. They just stole. They came over there like pirates and just robbed them for great periods of time. You think about the stories we hear about Great Britain selling opium to China. So I think that you look at T'Challa, he's very much an anti-colonial hero. His country's never been colonized. They fought to keep the colonial powers out. And so people may not, and I think people in the United States don't think about it, but this anti-colonial feeling is there in these foreign markets. People still think about it. People still are being affected by it culturally. And then, although the United States technically is not lumped in with that, we have military presence all over the world. And for politically, even though it may not be true, people think of us as like a colonial power overseas. And the fact that she makes this remark to a CIA agent, I think, too, sets it up as well. So to go over what I've said, I think this movie, it could appeal in foreign markets because the character was unique. He was a collectivist kind of a character and a collectivist hero. And that's something that I can't recall any other movie that's in this genre having. But the Black Panther is a very unique character. I've always thought that ever since I read him. But he's also, not only that, he's an anti-colonial hero. And all these countries overseas and these other markets who have this feeling of angst and anger over colonialism, he really resonated with them because he stopped that sort of influence from coming into his country. And he became a hero in that sense, too. I would challenge you to go back and look at Black Panther and get a new insight into why he's popular in these overseas markets and see if you agree with me.